Gate Gate Paragate Parasa
Nothing. Concentrate there.
Gate
Alle hogo.
Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Swaha.
Tradition.
And you are too obsessed with
Gate
But you want it to be ready, Andre, you have to tell them.
Paragate Parasangate Bodhi Swaha. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Radha.
Thank you.
Let's begin by our respects to our Guru. Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam
Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam.
We begin our study of this mantra, Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha, as explained to us by Bhagwan Osho Rajneesh. Ihal di Shadan was a Catholic Jesuit priest from France, a scientist who has traveled extensively around the world, a geologist, and in his important paper, which is available online many years ago, he had classified human evolution into 4 stages. The lowest, he says, is the geosphere. The next higher is the biosphere. Then is the human state called the noosphere. And the highest he could describe is the state of Christ, which he called Christosphere. This is an important slide which compares what Teilhard de Chardin's classification of human consciousness compared to modern psychology. Modern psychology compared geosphere to the unconscious, biosphere to the subconscious, noosphere to the level of consciousness, and Christosphere to super consciousness, or the highest level of consciousness. Patanjali and Vedanta, which we have studied, have a similar classification of the states. We have Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, and both Patanjali and Vedanta could not describe. When you say Christosphere, there is a certain limitation. When you say Buddha sphere, Krishna sphere, there is a certain limitations. And so the great masters who wanted to describe the highest level of consciousness described that as Turiya. Now we have to understand what this Turiya is, because that is where this whole mantra is going to take us to. Now, if you look at Om also, Om also has A, U and Ma. A representing Jagrat, U representing Swapna or the biosphere, and Ma representing the lowest level of consciousness, deep sleep, according to Vedanta, or the geosphere, according to the Shadan. Now, going to geosphere. Geosphere is the state of consciousness, which is a state in matter, which is almost no consciousness. It is in this condition, there is no mind, there is no freedom. Law is absolute. Law is absolute means, now supposing we say water boils at 100 degrees. Water should boil at 100 degrees in all conditions. There is no flexibility. The water cannot say, today I'm not in a mood, I'm not going to boil at 100 degrees, I will boil at a higher temperature. There is absolutely no option because law is absolute. A rock or matter is utterly in bondage because freedom comes as a byproduct of consciousness, which means the more conscious you are, the more free you are. That is the symbolism of Buddha as a rock Buddha. When you see a rock Buddha, it symbolizes from the lowest to the highest. The lowest level of consciousness is seen in the rock. The highest level is seen in a Buddha. That is why a Buddha is called a Mukta. Mukta means utterly free, one who has no limits, one who is one with the whole. And our whole effort is to move from different levels to become a Mukta, to become a free, to become totally free. There is a comparison between a Buddha state and the state of a rock in that both of them do not use the mind normally unless it is for transactional state. Now, a Buddha is called a state of no mind, means a Buddha is beyond mind, which we will explain as the course goes on. And a rock does not have a mind, it is below mind. Now, this is the similarity between a child and a realized master. That is why sometimes you will see great masters are more childlike, more spontaneous, more natural, and more similar to a child because they are beyond the mind. A Buddha is one who has gone through all these stages. When a person is fully conscious, the mind is not needed means when there is no mind, there is no ego, there is no limitations of I, there is no conditioning of the past. You will remember those of us who have studied Ramana's Upadesha Sara, how the mind works. There is a nice mantra which says, Manasantu kimmiti marga nekrite naiva manasam marge arjava. What is this mind? If you analyze what is there in the mind is full of thoughts. And these thoughts could be, now each object that I see around me comes to my mind as a thought, and these are all called idam vritti. And because the mind is constantly changing, a person can be lost if there is no center. The center is created by the mind as an I thought, and this is called aham vritti. So the mind is a combination of two thoughts, a large number of floating thoughts which are called idam vritti, and one central thought which is called aham vritti. Now, this is the greatness of the human being, that you have a mind, but this is also the agony, because that is why you have that phrase which says, Mana eva manushyanam karana bandha mokshaye. The mind can be the cause of bondage, the mind can be the cause of freedom. And as you understand this mantra, you will see how you have to use the same mind to go beyond the mind. When you see matter, where there is no mind, there is no self, matter is absolutely relaxed because two things, there is no mind, there is no limited sense of self, and very importantly, there is no time. Whenever there is a person, even a Buddha, because he has no mind and there is no self, a Buddha also lives beyond time, and a Buddha lives in eternity. And this is the real meaning of being in the present. And being in the present does not mean the space between the past and the future. Being in the present is very well described by those quotations from Jesus, when Jesus says, don't think of the tomorrow. See the lilies in the field, they toil not. They spin not, and they look so beautiful. How incredibly beautiful. Even Solomon was not so beautiful, arrayed in all his glory. Look at the lilies in the field. Those lilies are living in a kind of nowness. They don't know the past, they don't know the future. Now, going from the lowest, we come to the next phase of biosphere, the sphere of trees, plants, animals, and birds. Now, a tree has a little more life, an animal has even more life, and a bird is a little more free. And this corresponds to the second state of Patanjali or Vedanta called the swapna, or the dreamlike state of consciousness. Because there is a limited kind of a mind. There is absolutely no idea of the future. They are not able to think ahead. And even if it is only instinctive. And these are very, very fragmentary. You will understand the levels of consciousness if you go to the story of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden were in the state of plants and animals, because at that state they did not have a mind. Then the biblical story goes on that a serpent comes to Eve and tells her what to do. Adam and Eve were given the total freedom of to do whatever they want. They had the freedom to eat whatever they want. The Garden of Eden was loaded with varieties of fruits, a variety of apple trees, but God had given one condition. The condition was, don't eat from which tree? Don't eat from the tree of knowledge. The only condition was, don't eat from the tree of knowledge. Now the serpent comes and tempts Eve and says to Eve, now, why did God ask you not to eat from the tree of knowledge? If you eat from the tree of knowledge, if you get jnanam, you will become like God. And so she was tempted to become like God, and therefore she coaxed Adam to eat from the tree of knowledge. And when both of them ate from the tree of knowledge, there was a sudden transition from the biosphere they were to human consciousness called noosphere. And you know, for the first time, they became aware of their nakedness. For the first time, self-consciousness came, a sense of guilt came, because knowledge came. And from that moment onwards, the moment knowledge came, there was a banishment from the Garden of Eden. The banishment is a pseudo kind of banishment. The banishment comes because now we are not at the level of plants and animals. There is the mind. With mind comes the tragedy of self-consciousness, the sense of ego, the sense of time, and with time comes the sense of death consciousness comes, and with that all the anxiety comes. From that moment onwards, every one of us wants to go back to the Garden of Eden. Swami Anubhavananda talks about the 3 P's. That means whenever you go back to sleep, whenever we go to lower levels of consciousness, we always have a backdoor entry to the Garden of Eden. And Swami Anubhavananda talks of the 3 P's. That is, when you go back to sleep, it is the pillow, or you take drugs, that is the pill, or through alcohol, through pillow. And that is why our teacher now, Osho, tells us that if you have to move ahead, don't go to the lower, always go to the higher. So the third state is called the noosphere, where the mind has come into being, where there is self-consciousness. Vedanta calls this Jagrat. Osho calls it the so-called wakefulness. And he will tell you why it is so-called wakeful. We are not really as wakeful as we should be. Consciousness has come with the calamity of the ego. Time is born, anxiety is born, there is worry. And the more you start preparing for the future, the more anxious you become. And therefore, the advice is, it is very easy to go back to the lower level of consciousness, but it is extremely difficult to go to the higher level of consciousness. The message of Osho and the message of the Hridayam Sutra, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasam Gate, is to go from the lower to the higher, to higher levels of consciousness. If you can identify this monument, this is in Fatehpur Sikri. I don't want you to open up your microphones and speak because that will distort. But this is the Bulund Darwaza built by Akbar. Akbar had a very great reverence to his guru, Humayun Chishti. It was after him that he named his son as Salim Chishti. And when he built this new capital called Fatehpur Sikri, he put a huge wall called the Bulund Darwaza. And on that Bulund Darwaza, he wanted a nice inscription to be put up. And he asked his Sufi saints around him, what should I put? And they gave him an inscription from Jesus, which has been put up. The question for all of you, you can answer to me later. What is that inscription from Jesus Christ, which is put up on the Bulund Darwaza, which is there even today? And the inscription is this. The inscription says, Isa, son of Maria, said this: the world is a bridge. Pass over it, but don't build your house on it. It is a temporary abode. It is an abode for Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasam Gate, Bodhi Swaha. To go from body identification to the mind, to the ego, and to go completely beyond. So the fourth has to be created. The fourth is our potential. It is extremely arduous. It is an uphill task. And that is why all our spiritual exercises is to reach to the highest state. You can call it the Christosphere, the Buddha sphere, the Krishna sphere, the Devi sphere, whatever is your Ishta Devata, the highest level of state. Coming back to the third state, we think we have freedom, but what kind of freedom? We say my country is religiously free. That means you can go to a church, go to a temple, but we don't realize that when you are born as a Muslim or as a Hindu or as a Christian, you are so strongly conditioned by your religion that it is very difficult to think outside of your religion. And these conditions are so strong that we don't realize how we have been conditioned. So too our political views. Over the years, if you have lived, our parents, our teachers, the advertisement will condition you so much that we don't realize that we have been living out of our conditioning. And therefore, our life, whatever we think is freedom, is actually a pseudo freedom. Only if you analyze your life, you will realize how much of our thinking, our actions are all based on past programming. Osho in his discourse gives an example of how a man is hypnotized today. To say he's hypnotized in a deep state of hypnosis, he said, tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, I want you to go to the market and buy a particular brand of cigarette, 555. This was his programming. And the next morning, the person gets up, he thinks he's free. He's not aware that he's being programmed, but he creates a condition where he goes out of the house, goes towards where he gets the cigarettes, buys that particular brand that he has been conditioned to, and he all the time thinks that he is free. Now, we are in a kind of a hypnotic state. Another kind of hypnosis or another kind of conditioning that we have been is through suppression. If you have lived with parents who force you to be a Hindu or force you to be a Christian, and the moment you become free, you become reactive. You go against the wishes of your parents. You go to a Hindu temple or a Christian church just to tell your parents, I will show you. And this is another kind of hypnosis. And this is what is called a reactive mind. And you will see how our mind can be, how we are not free to choose. There is another problem that comes because we are not clear about our goals. And once a person is not clear, then a person is completely confused. And if you function out of confusion, then there is problem that comes. Osho's message is be, and all our teachers, Swami Anubhavananda says the same thing. Whatever you do, do 100%. Do with intensity. Let there be passion in what you do. And once you are clear about it, then your life is free because now you know what you do. your passion, your intensity now becomes, and you are not easily misled by anybody. Real freedom happens the more when you realize into higher states of consciousness, and that becomes when you work through greater and greater intensity. Osho refers to J. Krishnamurti's choicelessness, and choicelessness is freedom. He also gives an example of listening passionately. He asks each one of us, how passionately, how total are you in your listening? If you are listening totally, now you will realize if what I'm saying is true, or immediately you will realize what I'm saying is not true, because there is a natural intelligence in you, and with that you are not going to miss it. And also, if there is something of the truth, and if you are really alert, it is going to strike you immediately. It is going to transform you. Then look at the word transform. Transform means be going beyond form, not being limited by form. And therefore, even a single intense listening, a single state of intensity can be a very transformative state. Osho says for most of us, a life is a life of mediocrity. It is a sheepish life following others. It is a kind of a pajama philosophy. And therefore, we need to work on to the fourth, what Tihal Dishadan calls as the Christosphere, a state of a Buddha where there is no mind. And this is pure consciousness. In pure consciousness, there is no limitations whatsoever. Here, strangely enough, thinking is not required, because a kind of insight comes in. And once insight starts functioning, this is again what in Vedanta they speak about, the roasted seed. When the ego is burnt, the person still is functional, but there is only a functional ego. There is no sense of I in whatever you do. And this fourth state, Shardan calls it the omega point. Buddha calls it nirvana. The Jains call it moksha. Jesus Christ calls it God the Father. And this is the state when intuition, insight functions. There is a sense of timelessness. There is the real now. This whole sutra is concerned about moving from the third to the fourth, from the noosphere to the Christosphere, from intellect to intelligence, from self-consciousness to no self-consciousness. This is what Buddha calls anatta. Anatta means no self, no ego, nobody to limit you. This sutra is very strangely, the Hridayam Sutra is in Sanskrit. It is called Prajna Paramita Sutra. Prajna means wisdom. Paramita means the highest wisdom. The highest wisdom is the teacher now telling how a person can move, how a prepared student. Sariputra is the prepared student. He is on the border. Osho calls it 99.9% ready to evaporate. And this is where he needs the help of a guru who is standing on the other side. And this mantra, gate, gate, paragate, is one that helps a person who is a prepared student to cross the boundary line and go into the Thuriyam, the fourth state. And that is how the mantra goes. Therefore, Sariputra. The word therefore is very significant. All our scriptures begin with therefore. The Brahma Sutras begin with Athato Brahma Jignasa. The Bhakti Sutras become with Athato Bhakti Jignasa. Jaimani Sutras also begin with Athato. The word Athato comes from Atha. Atha is like two meanings. One is therefore. Therefore means the person has already been prepared. You don't begin a sentence with therefore. Therefore means you're talking about somebody who is already prepared. Sariputra is already prepared. And those of us who are now listening, this sutra comes to you at the right time when you are prepared. Bhagavan Buddha has said, it is extremely difficult to come across a Buddhist sutra. He says, blessed are those who come across a Buddhist sutra. And this is one of the greatest Buddhist sutras that we have got. Buddha is standing on the boundary line and is calling Sariputra, come, come. Gate, gate, paragate. Tasmat jnatavyam prajna paramita mahamantra. Now, Buddha begins to praise this mantra in superlatives. This is a great mantra, Mahavidya mantra. This is the greatest knowledge. There is nothing that can compare to it. This is a samvada. A samvada is the highest level of an interaction between a master and the student. The samvada between Arjuna and Sri Krishna, or the samvada between Buddha and Sariputra. Osho says, in a way, the samvada between Sariputra and Buddha is even higher, because compared to Arjuna was only a student. He becomes a disciple much, much later in the course of the Bhagavad Gita. And as a student, he is constantly asking Krishna various questions. On the other hand, Sariputra is completely surrendered to the teacher. When you are with the Buddha, it is absolutely wrong to ask a question, because a Buddha knows whom to give what and when. A Buddha knows you completely. And therefore, when you are in the presence of the Buddha, you have to become very receptive. And that is what Sariputra was. He was not verbalizing. His whole being was asking. He was kindled. That is what we said in the Mundaka. He was fire, very, very receptive, waiting for the teacher. Buddha knows when to give, what to give, and to whom to give. The student has to be open, to be receptive. Seeing his state, Buddha goes on saying, Sariputra has waited for many years, at least 20 years for this moment, when the master would see his need, when he would be worthy of receiving the highest gift of Paramapurushartha. That date has come. That day, that fortunate moment has come. And we are witnessing that transition of Sariputra through this mantra, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasam Gate, Bodhi Swaha. Buddha now condenses the whole message into a few words, in a small sentence, into a mantra, into a maxim, into a formula. And he says, this is the greatest mantra, because Buddha has contained all that is required for our spiritual journey. I will do the translation of Gate Gate Paragate. The Prajna Paramita is the great spell, the spell of great knowledge, the utmost spell, the unequaled spell. Now, Buddha is using the word spell. Sometimes you can see the word spell in a positive way, sometimes it can be in a negative way. In a positive way, the spell could be, he was so charismatic that I was under his spell. So that could be a positive way. Negatively, you know, he cast a magical spell, and so I was under his spell. So the spell can be seen in both ways. Now, it could be like a magical formula. That's why he says, why is the mantra considered as a magical formula? Once a person like a Buddha, a great master, they have moved from our state to Paramapurushartha. The moment they are awakened, the first thing they realize, it is like waking up from a dream. And the moment they wake up from a dream, they realize that all that we are going through is a lower level of reality. And therefore, whatever problems that we are going through is not so real from their perspective. And how can they help? The only way they can help us is either to wake us up, or until we have woken up, is to give us a magic formula. Osho gives a nice story of a man who had to cross through cemeteries, and he was extremely afraid of ghosts. He goes to a master and he says, you have come to the right person. I will give you a mantra which will keep all the ghosts away. And he says, keep this mantra in a special locket. So he carried the locket with him. And the magical thing was, the moment he carried that locket with that mantra that his master gave to him, the ghost stopped bothering him. But now there was a problem. All day long, he had to carry that locket with him, and he was really afraid that he would lose it. And he became so paranoid that he would go back to his teacher and he said, "You have solved my problem, but now I'm attached to this mantra, I'm attached to this box." So the teacher says, "See, all your problems were unreal. And because it was unreal, this mantra worked. Now you throw this locket away." Once you understand that your problems are unreal, a mantra is a spell to take away things that are not really there. For example, a mantra is needed for us to drop the ego. The ego is only a ghost. It is just an idea. What does a guru do? Remember this. A guru takes away from us what we think we have but don't, and that is our ego, our false sense, our hurts, our ambitions, our jealousies, our fear, our greed, our hatred. All these are our ghosts. A guru takes from us what we think we have but we really don't have, and gives us what we have always had, the Buddhahood in us, the Turiya, the Parama Purushartha is always there. It is not that at a particular moment you become enlightened. You are already that which you can possibly be. And that is what our teacher does. A teacher gives you what you have always had, but you have not realized what you've had, and takes away from you what you think you've had, but really don't have. A mantra is a strategy. Venkatesh Prasad, help me to read these slides for me for a moment, to save my breath.
A mantra is a strategy to take away your illusions and that which remains in the truth. All your problems are your creations. The mantra only takes the false. Once the false is taken, once the false is understood as false, the truth arises, and truth liberates. Truth is liberation. Buddha says,
I'll continue.
Buddha says this small mantra is so potent. It is enough for all your suffering. Just this mantra will take you to the farther shore. Satyam amrityatvat, in truth, for what could go wrong? Then nothing can go wrong. Satyam amithyatvat.
All right. See, Buddha is saying, once you come to the truth, nothing will go wrong. And this is another famous sutra, that all will be well and all shall be well. Now, for that, we have to come to the level of truth. As we go through our day-to-day anxieties about worrying what is going to happen about tomorrow, remember this mantra, Satyam Amitvat, for in truth, what can go wrong? Nothing can go wrong. Osho, as explaining, he says, what is mithya? Mithya is that which appears to be real, but not real. And that is why all our mantras are asatoma sadgamaya. From what appears to be real, take me to that which is real. Mithya means false. Amithya means not false. We go on missing the truth because we are clinging on to the false. All we need to drop is the false. And the moment we dropping what? Dropping the ego. And that is what is meant by nothingness, anatta. What is meant by no self. Osho continues by saying, by the prajna paramita, the spell has been delivered. And Buddha says, this is the last, the ultimate. There is no possibility to improve upon it. And Osho says, there is no more possibility, because this is the most brief and the most ultimate mantra that can be given for those of us on the path. Nothing is the greatest mantra. And if you can enter into your own nothingness, then nothing else is needed. This is the whole message of the Hridayam Sutra, of the Prajna Paramita Sutra. Tad yatha. Tad yatha. It runs like this. Now Buddha condenses the whole scripture, the whole dialogue, the whole message into a few words. And the words go, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasam Gate, Bodhi Swaha. Gone, gone, gone beyond, gone altogether beyond. Oh, what an awakening, oh, what an ecstasy. This completes the heart of perfect wisdom. Buddha uses the word gone 4 times. And what is these things that we are gone from? This has to be remembered. Gone from geosphere, gone from body identification, gone from biosphere, gone from identification with the subtle body, the mind, gone from the neosphere. The neosphere is the ego, and gone from the Christosphere. Now remember, when you talk of Turiya, you can never go beyond Turiya. Turiya is in and through Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti. But you can talk of the fourth state as Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. A Nirvikalpaka Samadhi is temporarily can be called a Buddha sphere or a Christosphere. And when Buddha uses gone, he says gone beyond that state of Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, gone altogether beyond. Oh, what a Swaha. The Shadan calls this the omega point, or which is the alpha point. That is why we see so much similarity between the omega point of the Buddhist discovery of anatta and the Vedanta of Purnatvam. Now, a circle can be seen as nobody, or a circle can be seen as Purna, as everybody. Now, this is the symbol that you see in the Kundalini exercises when Ganesha has got a snake, but it is fully opened up. Now, the snake holding its own tail in its mouth. You have come back a full circle. What is Satori? What is Samadhi? This is the awakening. This is Buddhahood. Osho declares you are a Buddha, and yet you are not a Buddha. This is the dilemma. This is the agony, and this is the ecstasy of being a human being. Now, all along we have been missing it. This sutra helps us to bridge between the neosphere and the highest sphere, or the Buddha sphere. This helps us to attain to Paramapurushartha. This helps us to fulfill our full being. Now, this mantra is very popular in the Buddhist countries, in China, in Korea, in Thailand, in Japan, in Ceylon. Wherever you see Buddhist monks, they will be going on chanting this mantra, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasam Gate, Bodhi Swaha. Osho says just repetition of this mantra does not help. What is the meaning of mantra? Mananat Trayate. Mananat means mananam. Mananam means to reflect in the mind. And if you reflect through meaning, if this mantra has become your understanding, if this mantra has become your being, then you have attained to the highest. This mantra helps you. Venkatesh, please read this for me.
Go on becoming bigger and bigger. Be limitless. Even the sky is not your limit. Go on. Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasam Gate, Bodhi Swaha. Swaha is the expression of the ultimate ecstasy. It is a great exclamation of joy. The benediction has happened. You are fulfilled, utterly fulfilled. In these few words, he has put the whole message, his whole life's message. The gap between the unreal you and the real you is false. You are the real you and the, I'm not able to see. Drop the idea that you are this limited ego. You are a Buddha, and unless you recognize it as that, you will suffer. Make an empty room there, that will reveal the truth to you. In that recognition, Swaha, Alleluia. Great ecstasy bursts forth in song, in dance, in silence, in creativity.
That is what all the Buddhist teachers from Nagarjuna onwards talk about emptiness. You know, we have accumulated so much over the years. Now the whole spiritual journey is beginning to drop. Our teacher talks about dropping port. Port stands for possessions, obligations, relations, and transactions. And you will see the more you drop the port, then you begin to realize that you become more and more empty. And when there is more empty, great ecstasy bursts forth in song, in dance, in silence. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is in Brahmanandavalli, there is a state when the Upanishad goes into an ecstasy. If you will remember, O ha, uha, uha, ahamannam, 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 nadaha. You know, where the Upanishad leads to an ecstasy, and when you reach that ecstasy, you really do not know how to express it. I remember Swami Tejomayananda says, I have remembered this mantra by heart because, you know, when it happens to me, I will want to know how to express it. Jesus expresses in his way, Buddha in his way, Meera in hers. Everybody expresses it in their own way. Somebody becomes utterly silent, a Ramana. Somebody starts singing, a Meera, a Chaitanya. Express it in your own way. Somebody dances not knowing how to say and goes into a crazy dance. That is his way. Somebody may paint, somebody may compose music, somebody may sculpt, somebody may do something else. There are going to be as many expressions as there are people. So the instruction is, be yourself. Let it take possession of you, and let the expression be essentially very intrinsic, and let it be authentically yours. Let that happen when you go into nothingness. Nothingness is the taste of the whole sutra. This is so much of a contrast to our materialistic life, where the winner takes all. I was just seeing a book at home. It says the winner takes all. Now, our teaching in Vedanta and in Buddhist learning is become nothing and you will have all. Only the losers will be the winners in this game. Lose all and you will have all. Cling, possess, and you will lose all. Buddha is also known as Mantra-adhipati, the bestower of spells, the master of spells, a Mahaguru. And Osho begins to describe the greatness of a guru. What does guru mean? Guru literally means one who removes darkness. But guru also means heavy, heavy with swaha, heavy with joy, heavy with ecstasy, heavy with heaven. He describes like a cloud full of rain, ready to shower on anybody who's thirsty, ready to share his Guru also means one who destroys darkness. A guru is one who makes you free, or one who delivers you freedom, one who liberates you. And Guru is one, and Buddha is one of the Mahagurus. Osho says the success rate of a Buddha is the highest. He has led more people to nirvana than anybody else has ever been able to do. Buddha's message is the greatest that has been ever delivered to man. And this sutra is one of the greatest expressions of Buddha. Osho says he has talked for 42 years. He has said so many things, but nothing compared to this. This is unique. You are fortunate that you have been here to listen to it and to meditate upon it. And then he gives his Maha Mantra. This is the message about Osho, and I want you to take this straight into your heart. He says, now be more fortunate. Become it. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevashu Vishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.